Hello, you're watching Bangkok ChitChat, and today we're going to be talking about dogs and cats and the situation of them here in Thailand. And to chat about it, on the screen we've got co-founder and president of the Soy Dog Foundation, John Dalley, MBE. Welcome to the show.
Thank you both. Good to be with you.
Well, we're going to be talking about the veterinarian standard in Thailand, breeding kennels in Thailand, importing breeds, Just Gill, the book, and also, of course, the most important thing, the Soy Dog Foundation. But first, I think we need to address the big elephant in the room, which is stray dogs. The latest Department of Livestock Development, whoever they are, have said that there are at the moment just under 1 million stray dogs in Thailand, and it could be as much as 2 million in 2027. Are these figures correct, John?
No, they're very much understated. And how they come to figures, I'm never quite sure. Yeah, because I know they register in many places own dogs, or many of the own dogs are free roaming, but they'll register them. But they've no method of counting, statistically doing a proper survey of stray dogs. So nobody really knows the full number, but I would put it certainly a lot higher than 1 million in Thailand as a whole. I mean, we know from our own surveys in the greater Bangkok region, originally it was a lot higher, but then we found there was a discrepancy from the BMA with the length of roads in the city. But we know it's roughly around about 350,000 dogs in Bangkok, free roaming dogs. And of course, free roaming means the dogs are not kept contained in the house or in the garden. And that dog could be a free roaming pet with an owner who allows it to roam. It could be what we term more community dogs, where they don't have a permanent owner, but the local community do put food out for it and happy to it be there because it provides some security. And then finally, you've got your out and out feral dogs, which tend to avoid human contact and generally are frightened of people. So you've got all that to look at, really. And of course, your feral dogs at one point would have been pets of people, puppies of pets of people who then discarded the puppies, which is quite common. So, it all starts off at own dogs and wends its way around. But I would say the number is certainly a lot higher than that.
So what is the problem with stray dogs? I mean, some obvious ones, there's this possibility of dogs coming into packs and attacking people. But what's the problem with having stray dogs?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, the reality is that if you've got a reasonable number and they're cared for, and this, I don't think you're ever going to get rid of all stray dogs in Thailand. I mean, I think that's partly down to the culture here. I would like to think that's possible in due course, but the issue is keeping the numbers down now, and how you do that. And there is different schools of thought. I mean, when I took early retirement out here in 2003 with my wife, Jill, by the way, not Gil. Jill is short for Gillian. And we basically just I was still in my early 50s at that time, wanted to put something back into the local society. We were here in Phuket. And we've been coming here on holiday for years, and it was quite clear that one area which was getting worse and worse was the stray dog situation. Every year we came here for many years since we got married here in 96. Every year we'd see more. The condition was generally appalling, often hairless, skeletal, and nobody really doing anything about it. Shortly after we moved here, the government set up a local dog pound. But again, no solution, because they would put any dogs that got dumped there or picked up would go in there. It wasn't very secure. They could escape. And to be honest, what happens is in any situation where you have stray dogs, and this happens throughout Asia, is you can only have the number of dogs that the area will support. It's a bit like humans in Africa with famines. If you've got too many people and not enough food, then the surplus die. And that happens with humans and it happens with dogs. But wherever you've got people feeding dogs, and there's plenty of garbage around, and a big problem in Thailand we have is garbage disposal. I mean, if you compare, say, to the West now, where you have all this these big dog-proof bins, and it's all sorted and all the rest of it. You know, still a lot of waste, still people just throw garbage out on the side of the road, etc. And that is a food source for stray dogs. And stray dogs.
So you would say the diet of a stray dog is fried rice, sweet and sour pork, or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And you'll find people dump them at garbage tips and whatever. Around most garbage tips, you'll find large populations of dogs, feral dogs. But yeah, this is the issue. So how do you control it? Now, the government certainly have been discussing the last 2 or 3 years of building huge shelters all over the country. And we don't agree with that because, quite honestly, it won't work. I mean, years and years ago, they used to go around shooting dogs in Bangkok and whatever and putting poison down, still put poison down in some areas. The late king intervened on that and stopped the shooting, etc. But even that didn't work. Every year there were more stray dogs. And because you can only take so many out, and the number you take is rapidly replaced by the surviving minority. If they're not sterilized, they all produce up to the carrying capacity of a city, town, village, or wherever. So you've always got that situation. And they don't really understand the costs of not only building shelters, but then running shelters and keeping shelters going, and actually providing, if you're going to make them humane, and not just basically a dog concentration camp where they go and they fight to death, no food, etc., and pretty horrendous places, and we have those in Thailand. So that's the situation you're looking at, and they will never get all the stray dogs, every stray dog, into a shelter. So the others, the rest, will just breed up. I studied way back before we moved, after we moved to Thailand, what has worked, and mass sterilization, and I mean large-scale sterilization, has proved to work in many cities in India, in smaller countries like Bhutan, and even in places like New York, who have the longest records going back, way back into the 1800s, about stray dogs. And it's interesting that in New York in the 1800s, they used to gather up all the strays, take them to a pound, they were then put in these huge crates and dumped down into the river to drown them. That's how they controlled stray dogs back in those days. Didn't matter how many they killed, every year there were more. And it went up and up and up, right up to the early 50s, when you had over 300,000 dogs a year, all recorded, being euthanized, not then by drowning, but being euthanized in New York City.
So the solution, I think.
Well, I've got a question here.
So the solution is basically you look at doing mass neutering and spaying.
Can I ask, what is the difference between sterilization, neutralize, or whatever, and castration? Is there a difference?
Euthanizing is killing the dog. Euthanizing is killing. Okay? Yeah. Sterilizing a dog, whether it's a male or female, and is actually, they no longer have the ability to breed. So the object of CNVR, which is proven has worked now in New York as well, is only, this, I think it's down to about 2,000 or 3,000 strays a year now in New York. And they only euthanize the dangerous ones because they can find homes for the others. But CNVR stands for capture, neuter, vaccinate, and return. And the return is what people struggle with, but the reality is that if you have a population of sterilized dogs, dogs are territorial by nature. So they're still in their area, they can't breed, they're not breeding, and the numbers decline. And we proved this in Phuket. I mean, in Phuket where we started, now most of our work is in Bangkok and other parts of the country. But in Phuket, we're basically focusing on cats now because there's very few unsterilized dogs left. You don't see an immediate impact. You see what people think, oh, take them off the street, they're gone. They're not, because others replace them. So you've got to give it time for, in effect, the dogs to, as they get older, some will die from accidents, disease, illness, whatever. Death continues. But the numbers do decline. And when we started, certainly back in 2003, from surveys we did, we estimated around about 70,000 dogs in Phuket. Now you're down to stray dogs, you're down to actually a few thousand now, but most of them are sterilized. You do have to run a maintenance program though, because you've still got puppy, which is a question you want to come on to, but there are puppy farms now all over Thailand. They ship puppies down for sale in Phuket at the markets and whatever. The ones that aren't sold, well, they're still cute and whatever, are discarded in, in the jungle, on the roads, whatever. And obviously, a lot of the ones that are purchased as an impulse buy. This happens in the West as well. And suddenly they find the puppy is no longer as cute and it's maybe messing in the garden and so forth. Bang, dump it in the truck, take it somewhere else and dump it. So you've got these unsterilized puppies, if you like, still appearing.
From the question of stray dogs, okay, we understand if there's lots of dogs, especially in Thailand, people are very scared of dogs in general, very, very wary, yeah? And also understand within Buddhism, obviously, they don't want to be killing an animal, yeah? But with the stray dog, is there a risk of spreading disease to the human population? Is there attacking people, creating packs, and there's been kids that have been attacked?
The dangers of it, really, as far as disease, rabies obviously is the big one. Phuket, we vaccinate every dog we sterilise, and bear in mind we've sterilised over 500,000 now as of last December, and we're sterilising now. Well, in fact, 250,000 of those nearly were done in the last 2 years. So the numbers we are doing are going up and up and up. We have so many teams now. And most of those are in Bangkok or the greater Bangkok region. But rabies is an issue, but rabies is coming down in Thailand. We've not had a rabies case in Phuket for many, many years. Phuket was named Thailand's first rabies-free province. There's always a danger, whenever they allow puppies from rabies endemic areas to be flown around, which is the other reason. It's supposed to be illegal, but it's not. So puppies can be transported, and who knows if the mother of that puppy in a puppy farm had rabies somewhere in the sticks.
So
there's that danger. There's actually very few rabies cases. I think there was 2. I don't think there was any human rabies cases in Bangkok last year for the first time for a long time. That again, bear in mind, I can give you figures, but we've now sterilised a lot of dogs in Bangkok, and we vaccinate them all. And local authorities are also doing vaccinations. The way to eliminate rabies in humans is to eliminate it in dogs. It's far easier. Vaccine's cheap. In terms of attacks on people, it's an interesting one. Generally speaking, we don't see many instances of packs of dogs. Of attacking. You hear the odd ones. Cases. I've seen one. I think it's the last year there was a case in Phang Nga province or whatever, where a group, and of course it's headline news, some dogs attacked a child or something on the beach, and that's shocking and whatever. And those dogs, can't be allowed to stay there. We advocate. Don't be wrong, I'm not. A lot of people have this view of sort of animal welfare people or whatever as being sort of old ladies going out and feeding dogs and poor dogs. I see stray dogs as an issue, and it's an issue that I believe we can solve. Unfortunately, it does need the government to cooperate as well, and sometimes we do find ourselves at loggerheads with them over the way they're doing things and the way we're doing. What we do works, but it takes time. If you've got a genuine dangerous dog, and the dog has been attacking people, that dog should be euthanized, whereas the government will put it into a shelter. And it will be locked up in a shelter, spending the rest of its life locked up in a cage. To me, that's just as inhumane as whatever. So if we have we know of a genuine dangerous dog, then I would have no hesitancy in euthanizing that dog.
But I remember I had a dog, and I've got a dog, actually a stray dog, which we adopted. Through actually somewhere very close to your Bangkok site. I've been to your Bangkok site in Soy Dog. Anyway, so my dog was sick, and we said to the vet, "Can you put him down? He's old. He's not comfortable. He's not happy. Can you put him down?" He said, "No, I can't do that. I must help him." Yeah, and I said, "No, just put him down." I said, "No, I won't do it." And took a blood test, and we took the dog back home, and within an hour the dog was dead. Right? So my point is do vets basically are they allowed to put a dog down, or is there some maybe related to Buddhism, or a law where a vet cannot put a dog down unless it's in extreme pain? Yeah?
They are allowed to put dogs on, but you're right in what you say. It depends on the individual vet. I mean, I'll give you a little. Listen to this. Is many years ago. Picked this cat up and half its face was missing. A thing was in, whatever. I took it to a local vet, and he suggested another vet who was a cat expert. Took it to her. Bless her, lovely lady. She had a surgery was full of the dogs, terminally ill animals. He says, "Don't worry, Clon John. I'll look after it, and I'll put it in a cage, and it would basically she'd just keep it there till it died." And I said, "Oh, it's okay. Jill look after it. You know, there's no treatment." Took it straight back to the first vet, and he euthanized it straight away because he was willing to euthanize animals, but he just wanted to see if there was any chance. We're fortunate now. There's a lot of good young vets in Thailand, and we have some excellent vets. And our vets now are very much all of them. But we won't employ a vet if it won't terminate if that vet won't terminate pregnancies, and we won't employ a vet who will not euthanize a dog that is suffering, and there is no alternative.
Right.
If we can save a dog and give it a quality of life, we will. Money doesn't come into it, but if a dog is paralyzed, has been hit back up, there's no chance of ever walking again, and some people will keep it, and they want, even though it's just laying there, and Tide would keep it, literally keep it. To me, that's wrong. And if the dog has no quality of life, or the dog is suffering, and we cannot do anything to prevent that suffering, terminal cancer, things like that.
Okay,
our vets will euthanize.
Okay,
Our vets will euthanize.
Another question is, you got your vet. You take your dog to the vet. You have a card from the vet. You create the history. I think the history's. You go to the same vet all the time. When a human, you go to different hospitals all the time, so you probably have a better record of your dog health than your own. But when you get a dog, is there a license you must apply for to have that dog? I know you have to get the jabs and things for your dog, but is there a license for you to get a dog to register to make sure it's had all the proper jabs? Yeah. Legally, and if you're caught with having a dog without that, what are the ramifications?
Is there a penalty or something? Yeah.
No, there's no law in Thailand at the moment. I mean, they've talked again. This has been mooted a lot about having a dog license. I mean, in the UK years ago, they used to have a dog license. Now, hardly anybody ever bought one, but I think it cost more to administer than it did from the revenue. But they were talking about having this very high dog license fee in Thailand. The Prime Minister came up with it, but it was sort of howls of protest because, pointed out, people who are animal lovers, some of them are quite poor and they're looking after several dogs and whatever, would never be able to do that, and they just discard the dogs because if they were forced to have to pay. So you've got that issue here as well. But very important, I just come back to the dangerous dogs bit, because I mentioned we sort of got on from there, from euthanasia. The majority of stray dogs actually are not aggressive. Most dog bites come from own dogs that are allowed free roaming, because you walk past, everybody I know has ever been bitten by a dog here. They've been walking past the end of a house and the dogs run out and bit them because that dog is protecting its territory. Most stray dogs, real stray dogs, are actually frightened of people and they'll avoid you. And that's more our experience. We have to
that's absolutely right. I got bitten about a year ago, and that was a dog ran out of a gate, bit the back of my calf, and that was it. Because I have lots of stray dogs around. If you look at those stray dogs, they'll normally run away. And if you had to go, they would be gone. So, we've talked about the veterinarian standard in time, but I just really sorry, but I have to go back to the sterilization process. What is that? It's not the castration of the testes. It's nothing to do with that. It's not the tubes being tied. Can you explain sterilization?
Well, yeah, a male dog would be the removal of the testes. That's full castration. I mean, you don't cut through the sac. It's actually slightly internal, and the testes are removed. It's important to note, though, we focus on females. We actually support. I mean, we're sterilizing now, I think last was over 13,000 dogs a month at the moment. Now that's us and also projects we're supporting. We've got projects as far south as Songkhla and as far north as up in Chiang Mai, and we also have a project in Pattaya. But we have 6 mobile teams operating in Bangkok, and we support also another program in that central area. So there's a lot of dogs, but all the programs we support, we finance their sterilizing or neutering of female dogs only, because there's a lot of stray dogs in any area, and we've only got so much, we don't have a money tree growing the garden. We have to raise funds to pay for this, and it costs a lot of money. So it's a case of trying to be as most effective as you can. You can never sterilize every animal. You'll never catch every one. And with stray dogs, as I'm talking about being frightened, we have to dart them. We have to catch them with nets and one thing or another. You have to trap them. And we only support with our third-party programs females, because one male dog has a hell of a scent. When the wind's blowing correctly, can smell a dog in heat. Excuse me, my dog's Karen. Miles away. So you have one male dog can impregnate every female in an area when it comes into season. So it's far more imperative, although it's a slightly more complicated operation. It's basically a full hysterectomy. Is to sterilize the females and stop them coming in heat.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
The male dogs, but that works far
I
better.
get it.
Right.
Yeah. Are you getting help from the government on any of this?
The reality is, normally speaking, we actually help the government. I mean, the largest, even in Phuket at the local dog pound, any dogs that come in that they get here are unsterilised. We've been sterilising them, and we have. There's a big shelter that we built. It's not owned by us. It's the biggest in the country in Buriram province, which we built purely for dogs rescued from the dog meat trade during the height of that situation, with the view that it would then be mothballed for just emergencies. But they continued to bring local dogs into it and use it as another dog pound. And we actually have to actually provide food or whatever for that, because they don't have the budget to do it. We paid for renovations, for improvements to Phuket pound, because they build these shelters. Oh yeah, well, we've got a grant, or the local or Jure or whatever will provide the finance to build a shelter, but well, hang on a minute, you need staff to feed them, you've got to buy the food, you've got to have vets to treat them if they get sick, and that doesn't seem to get through particularly. I mean, there's one shelter in Karat, which one of the princesses has financed. It's cost 300 million baht for that shelter, and that is got vets on site and is looking. But again, the local authority thinking, oh, they'll have to take all the dogs in Karat province. It won't. We've been asked to consult on that. We've been up and we've looked at the shelter, and we've advised them that really, humanely, they can keep maybe 1,500 dogs there, where they're looking at keeping 5,000. But the reality is, there's vastly more dogs than 5,000 in the whole of Karat province. So you get a few of them in there, but the rest just replace them. And this is the situation where if you can get all the dogs sterilised, and we're working now, in fact, in Ubon Ratchathani, we're having discussions with the local public health department as opposed to DLD, which is Department of Livestock. Yeah. They are looking at working with us there. Unfortunately, because of COVID, they've had to put that back until at least the end of this year. But so we are trying to build up relationships with local governments and work alongside. We work alongside the BMA, in terms of we actually have clinics in every KEP, and so all that individual KEPs, and we have meetings with them in advance to determine where the clinic's going to be held, normally temples or schools. And we work there, until that area is clear. And we're actually now on the second round of that. And we have surveys done. We actually have one of the world's leading authorities who's based in the UK. Because this program in Bangkok, I should add, is done Dogs Trust International. It's a UK-based charity, well-known charity in the UK. They're financing 50% of our mobile team teams in Bangkok, of which there's 6. And They also, we co-financed this, but comes over, well, I haven't been able to come over at the end of last year, but we're doing surveys. We have our own people doing surveys, checking people's attitude, checking numbers of dogs in the areas, checking the condition of the dogs, how many lactating females there are, how many puppies we see. And the figures are very encouraging for Bangkok. And not surprisingly, even with the attitude of the local people, we find they're far more tolerant when they know the dogs are sterilised and they're in better condition. They're more likely to.
Can I ask you about that? But the local people. I mean, in every sow you'll have somebody who's feeding the dogs, and you know that's just your good nature. Number one question is, if there's stray dogs in your area, where do you report them to be taken away, or would they be taken away? And second question is, when you're talking about people feeding dogs, from what I heard, feeding dogs rice is not good for them, and it gives them scabies or skin diseases. What should they be feeding them? Is it just chicken?
Well, rice on its own, I mean, rice is basically a carbohydrate,
Yeah.
but there's no protein in it, nourishment. I mean, they don't need, I mean, even in temples, you see the monks, they give generally a rice, but people, obviously a dry biscuit is best because it doesn't rot, it doesn't go off rapidly if the dogs will take it. I mean, we're not necessarily in favour of feeding dogs, because dogs will find their food source. They will find it. And the reality is, you would not have the stray dog problem in Thailand if people didn't feed dogs and there was no garbage. Garbage is a big problem. But of course, Thai people, I mean, are very, very good natured in the main. I mean, particularly, you know, ones are making merit and whatever, and they want to, they don't like to see an animal suffering, which is, I think, is great, that they will try and help. But reporting dogs and having them removed, for what reason? Because they're there, or because they're attacking people. There's two different, because if it's there, there's no point in having, you can bring up the BMA, but the reality is that taking dogs off the street and putting them in a dog pound, you're just leaving an open space for more dogs to move in. Far better if those dogs are sterilised, not producing, and leaving them, and other dogs are not coming in to take their place because dogs are territorial, keeping them out. Give us the opportunity to sterilise basically nearly all the dogs in Bangkok. If you sterilise over 70% of dogs, same as if you vaccinate 70%. You've heard this with COVID. You know, 70% is seen as the figure for many, many years to provide herd immunity. And with rabies, if you vaccinate 70% or more, you will eliminate rabies in dogs. With terms of eliminating stray dogs, people say the same thing, but that's not true. I mean, I don't believe, because we've done experiments on islands like Koh Kut and whatever, where there's no new dogs coming in. If you don't sterilise them all and then just do nothing, eventually the few unsterilised ones, as the other ones die off, would gradually come in and start. So you do have to have this maintenance program.
Just to summarise, basically, don't feed dogs. Yeah, they'll find their own source, and there's nowhere really to report them as such, because it's better for them to be stray and be sterilised. Yeah.
Unless they're dangerous. I mean, if you're walking along and a pack of stray dogs come at you, attacking you, obviously, you know, something needs to be done about that. But it's very rare, and I've actually heard of an instance in Bangkok where packs of dogs are attacking people. But if you do get, say, more likely it's going to be an own dog, and it's going to be like you were bitten by, you know, it's going to be running out of the house. I mean, ideally, yeah, it would be great if people would be more responsible in caring for their own dogs, keeping them and exercising them when they need exercising.
Well, that's a problem in itself. That's a problem in itself, because there's nowhere to exercise your dog here. You can't take them to a park; they're banned. You can't take them on a leash. People buy dogs for fun and then realise there's actually a lot of work behind them. But what should I mention your
book? It's called Just Jill, right? Just Jill.
Yeah.
So what's it about?
Well, Jill, it's a biography I wrote, published this year in the UK, about my late wife, and she was a remarkable person. I mean, not everybody knows the story of her, but in 2004, only been there a year, she lost both her legs and nearly her arms and nearly her life, in fact, from after going a dog she darted in a flooded water buffalo field. She contacted a rare form of septicemia. She was medevaced up to Bangkok, and she survived. Actually came out 3 days before the tsunami hit, which killed her best friend here in Phuket. So, but she never, and I would have not been surprised that time. She said, "That's it," you know. But no, I mean, she got prosthetics, and she's continued until she died from cancer in 2017. Every day of her life out there working. And probably the bravest person I personally met. She was one tough cookie, put it that way. And Soy Dog, I mean, Soy Dog now is we sterilize more animals than any organization in the world. And we actually, we have a hospital and shelter based in Phuket. We have a small clinic in Bangkok and mobile teams. Phuket is our base, which is actually over.
You've really continued Soy Dog in her honour, and that's, I suppose, you winning the MBE last year was also a sign of honour, and for yourself.
I mean, I look upon that as more for Soy Dog, not personal. I mean, obviously, don't give it to organisations. It was nice, you know, thing to get, but I'm not really into one who's into awards. But you don't say no, obviously, and it could be good for Soy Dog. That's what I look at it as, because people, you know.
So back to the book for a moment. So it's about the foundation.
It's about Jill and about her work in the foundation. It's sold already several thousand copies, and the response to it has been fabulous. I think people will find it a moving story, but also an inspirational one. And I think it tells the story. It doesn't matter disabilities, whatever you end up with in life.
So where can they buy it? Can they buy this on Amazon? Maybe we'll get a link.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon UK, but the best place to buy it actually would be to buy it from Soy Dog, because then every penny of profits, I don't get anything from it. I've never been paid a cent by Soy Dog since we started it 18 years ago now. You know, I volunteer, always have been a volunteer. We now have over 300 staff, you know, in Thailand. But as far as myself goes, Jill went. We never, you know, we were volunteers.
So we'll put the link at the bottom for donation.
Well, it's www.soydog.org is the website, and anything you want to know about Soy Dog, you can find out on there. On the top there, on the little headings, it says shop. Click on that, you'll find the book, and it actually comes, crazy it sounds, from the UK, but the postage is very low.
So if people want to adopt a dog, so they should go to the website as well, because you have a site.
Go to our website, go to the adoption page, contact us. We've always got puppies. All our dogs are obviously, including puppies. We send them all over Thailand as well as internationally. I mean, internationally past year, because of COVID, has been difficult. You can only go, normally have flight volunteers and things. But we get them to you. We don't charge adoption fees, but then all the dogs are sterilised, even the puppies sterilised, fully vaccinated, everything, health checks, the lot. And if you're adopting to somewhere like Bangkok, we'll get the dog up to you in Bangkok. But bear in mind, like Nok Air, they transport dogs for us by cargo free of charge. And if they have to come by road or whatever, we send a few at a time.
Basically, make a donation.
We ask you to pay those, you know, the costs involved, but there's no fee. If you're local to Phuket, be nothing. Obviously, a donation is welcome. We operate donations, but
we'll have all your details on the description below of our video. So for donating, basically you're saying just go to the website and it's all there, which bit you want from it.
Yeah, the basics are there, and you'll always contact us for more information or whatever. You know, I spend, sadly, most of my life is on this thing, being letters to people.
Like most of us.
Whatever. It's a reality. In reality, we actually make at the moment about 5% of our what we need to survive and to do what we do, and it continues to expand from donations in Thailand. 95% is overseas, and we're wanting to try and obviously increase the donations and we get from Thailand.
Any other questions, Andrew?
No, I think
one. I know we're really running out of time, but as you're from Phuket, totally away and off topic, how is Phuket at the moment with the COVID? Is it? I mean, you've got a lot of people living there. don't they?
It's dead. And obviously that's had an impact on us. I mean, as foreigners living here, obviously like myself, tourism industry is dead. There's nothing here. And at the moment, and they're now they're hoping, they're talking now October, they're hoping people vaccinated will be allowed to come in. But I think it's...
So you'll be vaccinating people as well as dogs. Yeah.
I wish.
Pass on my thanks to Naomi, who actually got all this together. My thanks to John Dalley, MBE. All his descriptions of what to do for donating, adopting are below. Mark up. Thank you very much indeed, John.
Thank you. Nice to speak to you. Anytime.
Yeah. Thanks
Lovely.
very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye now.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Oh, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I could have talked for hours. Anyway, so we've got to go because we're going to get cut off. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done that already. And we'll see you next time on Bangkok Chit Chat.
Yep.
Now, quick.